We caught up with Bencher candidate 2019 Orlando de Silva before his early morning flight at Pearson Airport. He's an inspiration in the legal community, and his platform centers on improving mental wellness for justice sector participants. Part of your platform involves improving mental health initiatives and programming for other justice sector participants. Can you elaborate?
Well, I take a broad approach to improving mental health in the profession, recognizing that the Law Society regulates lawyers in the public interest. So I'm trying to get to the public interest through regulation of lawyers. And I don't think that the Law Society on its own can do that. It has to partner with other entities like the government, for example, but also Ontario Psychological Association, the association that represents Crown attorneys and government lawyers. I think Legal Aid Ontario can be part of it. I know there was a proposal put to the Law Foundation to have psychologists in courtrooms or in courthouses to help people who are engaging in family law disputes, just to help them feel better about what they're engaging in and to try to take the temperature down. And we find that if resolution is available when you can do that. So I believe that there's enough interest, even with law schools, the way, I'm going on this tour now, that there's such a high interest and desire in wellness generally and mental health in particular, that there are a lot of people willing to do things to make the justice system as a whole a better place to engage and resolve disputes and either represent yourself or be represented by a healthy lawyer.
Tell us a little bit about the tour.
Well, it came about quite suddenly and surprisingly to me, because I was invited to attend at the University of Alberta in Edmonton. So I asked if Calgary was interested, and they said yeah, they'd split the cost. So I decided to tweet out to see if anyone else was interested, and within 5 days I was booked across the country. So this is the western part of the tour. It's starting off in Vancouver, Victoria, Alberta, Calgary, Winnipeg, and then the eastern part of Ottawa, McGill had to be rescheduled, Fredericton, hopefully Dal, but also Western and Windsor have lined up. So there's a few little ones that haven't yet. I've been to Osgood and U of T so many times, they're probably tired of hearing from me. So it's exciting because I really care a lot about students. None of them have a vote in the election, but it doesn't matter to me because I just remember those days and how stressful they were, and then I think of how much more it's compounded by the student debt loans. I paid $2,000 to go to U of T, and now it's approaching $40,000, and that I think in itself is a barrier to justice, but it's also a barrier to mental wellness, and I want to try to encourage them that even if you are going through these sorts of cycles and stress and imposter syndrome, that it's not an impediment to a meaningful, fulfilling career in life. And that's what I want to convey, really.
That's a very interesting term, imposter syndrome, and it's one that resonates with me. Can you tell me, what does that mean to you?
Well, for me, it meant that I didn't feel like I belonged in law school or in the profession generally for a long time. And it starts in subtle and little ways, and I can imagine how much worse it could be for others. But for me, it was this sense that, my father was a welder. I didn't know anyone who went to university. I didn't meet a lawyer until I went to law school. I didn't know if I was smart enough to cut it. I had this feeling my LSAT was a fluke, and someone's going to find out that I shouldn't be there, And when the students dressed better than me and talked about their cottages on Lake Joseph and doing equestrian in the summer, and my idea of fun as a kid was a sprinkler, you don't feel like you fit in, right? And I remember even at the big firm at a black tie event, we were all there to celebrate how great we were as lawyers and as a firm, and I thought I didn't fit in. And that might have been 8 years in. I was already a partner at a big firm, and I just wondered, when does this feeling go away, you know? With changes in my career and attitude and redefinition of what success means, it changed, and I have a much more rewarding career in life than I thought possible. And I just want, you know, students who are going through this sort of feeling to think that you made it this far, you're going to make it as far as you need to get. I think that resonates with them well, you know. There's no reason they can't succeed. There's no reason, even if they are depressed, that they can't succeed and can't do well. And they just have to take care of themselves. And I hope that that's the message of hope for them.
I mean, that's a tough thing to talk about, to admit, to speak publicly. And I'll be honest, your candid approach has helped me be honest with myself as well. Now, in terms of before you went public with your story, did it turn out as you expected?
I didn't know what to expect. I did it as I was entering my term as president of the OBA, and I wanted it to make a meaningful year. And so I talked to a lot of people who told me, who cared about me a great deal, and said, don't do this. It's going to hurt your career, and et cetera, et cetera. You're going to lose friends and respect, and I thought long and hard about it, and I felt like I was at that age and stage and in the government, not in the private sector, such that I felt comfortable that they were wrong and this could be something that could have an impact. What surprised me was how much of attention it got, you know. It was in 2014 and it was covered on the front page of the Star. You know, I didn't expect that at all. And then I was invited to speak, and then over time that led to over 200 more invitations, and each one leading to media and stuff. So that I've been told that this message has gotten to over 6 million people. So if nothing else, I feel like maybe I should retire, you know.
Any good fighter on his feet, yeah, that's right. No, but on a serious note, it really did affect me, so thank you.
Well, good, I'm glad. Thank you. Made my day, maybe my week, I'm sure.
And I guess other platform issues, one thing I noticed on LSOventure.com, you talked a little bit about entity-based regulation, and I think that that's something a lot of people may not understand. Can you sort of just tell us a bit about your thoughts? You referred to that study in Wales.
Yeah, well, entity-based regulation is a fancy way of saying regulation of law firms, which would work in a way that you give the opportunity to a law firm who opts in. I think it should be an opt-in basis to self-regulate, you know, to impose its own rules and regulations consistent with what the Law Society would impose, to make sure that lawyers abide by that, and to enforce its own policies in an appropriate way. And in New South Wales, they found that law firms, when given that kind of latitude, were able to do it better than the Law Society. So they had fewer complaints and fewer discipline issues and fewer issues with negligence and incompetence. And so the Law Society could step back and allow them to do that. And where it failed, of course, it'd step in and take over. So I think that with the appropriate firm and the appropriate plan, that's a good way to reduce complaints and discipline, etc., in the public interest, which is our ultimate job. And we have a test case scenario in New South Wales that's shown that it's worked. Why not try it, at least on a pilot basis here? And if not, let's at least debate it. So I think it's worth the debate.
Fair enough. And is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would want to express to someone listening?
Well, I've seen some of your posts on social media and admire the positions you've taken. And one in particular, I don't want this block of 13 and probably shrinking candidates who want to stop the statement of principles from going forward. They may agree on nothing else but that. And so if that's the case, I don't know how it helps the Law Society. I don't know how it helps the public. And I think that, frankly, it's moving backwards. I've said publicly they're on the wrong side of history. So your point that I read and take away from is a good one. I would like that to be put behind us, and let's start talking about the real issues that are going to affect lawyers and their ability to service the public well. And we've gone one baby step in that direction on EDI issues, and I'd hate to see that reversed by giving this group any platform at all. So in my mind, stop-SOP is DOA, and so let's put it behind us and talk about real issues, and I take that from your campaign.
A true government employee with the acronyms. I like it. Thank you so much for participating in this.
Thank you very much. And thanks for getting up so early.
Oh yeah, no worries. The Bencher Election 2019 for the Law Society of Ontario takes place from April 15th to 30th. If you're out of Ontario, why not look at what's happening in your region? If you know someone who's practicing, see what they're up to. Encourage them to vote. Check me out on Twitter at Caryma Rules.